I do think that the American empire is declining and that the Chinese either are going to be the next empire or, if we're lucky, will be the sponsor for a genuine multilateralism. We'll see. We don't know yet. And I don't know yet, but I know no one else knows yet either. I do know that the United States everywhere is trying to stop, slow, constrain, and constrict China. The containment policy that they believe worked on Russia has now been adapted or extended to apply to China. That's why they held back the chips, which didn't succeed because of what happened with DeepSeek. All right? That's why they all of a sudden got interested in Taiwan again. That's why the Seventh Fleet is in South China Sea. So here the president can show he's doing something against China. Look, the problem is the United States' ability to slow down and stop China has so far proven to be zero. They can't do anything. I want to remind people who might question this, leading government spokesmen and women have been saying for at least 10 years, if not longer, that we, the Americans, need to put more pressure to constrict and constrain China. Didn't use those words, but that's what it amounted to. Why? Because the expectation, this is sort of the official line, the expectation in the minds of Henry Kissinger and Richard Nixon when they went to China ended the refusal to recognize the government of China. Let's remember, the communists come to power in 1949, and Kissinger and Nixon go to China in 1970, early 70s. Okay, so, whoa, that's a long time. When you pretended they're not there, you would not send an ambassador, you would not receive an ambassador, all of that. What that meant was that the Japanese and the Europeans got to do productive and profitable trade with China. Americans were excluded. They didn't want that anymore, and so, okay, we'll open up. That was the real reason. Then the little BS official was, this is going to help integrate China into the world economy, moving it closer to the liberal democracy that we have. It's hard for me to repeat this nonsense, but it's the official line. We were all supposed to wait for China to come around. When it came time to bring them into the World Trade Organization, which was necessary for the benefits to American companies of being able to deal with China, the same BS was recycled. By letting them into the World Trade, they would become more like us, which of course means freedom, democracy, apple pie, and baseball. Okay?
Good things.
Absolutely. Starting 10 or 15 years ago, it became clear, particularly to the kind of American politician who came to be known as a neocon, for good reason, began to realize that this strategy wasn't working, that it was enabling China to grow like blazes economically, but it wasn't becoming more like us at all. The Communist Party was still the controlling political element. It managed the state, and the state supervised a hybrid economy, one half private capitalist enterprise, one half government-owned enterprise, which is more or less the way it is now. And the neocons decided and used Clinton, Obama, and Biden to articulate. They persuaded them, so they became the Democratic center championed by Clinton. That China was a net enemy. Bringing them into the world trade thing was too good for them. Number one, and number two, wasn't doing, which, by the way, some of them were honest enough to say, regime change, a liberal democratic parliamentary system. And so it became necessary to constrain and constrict and limit and punish and hurt them. And because of the legacy of the Cold War, again, sitting down with the Chinese to try to say, look, you're a declining empire, we're a rise empire. We can come to blows over that. Lord knows human history gives us examples. Or we can try to find a way to share the planet. Let's at least try this sharing the planet. After all, the last quarter of the 20th century was a time when both the United States and China experienced pretty good economic growth together. The neocons smashed that. They didn't want that kind of talk. We have to, it's crystal clear, like with the Soviet Union. And remember, the Soviet Union conveniently implodes in 1989. So there's the success. It worked. Reagan was able to, we defeated them. Okay. So we have a plan how to do it. Do to the Chinese what we did to the Russians. It worked with the Russians. It should work. So they're very upset now. It didn't. They didn't change anything. Now, of course, with half a brain, you might have said to yourself, China went from one of the poorest countries on earth in 1949 to a superpower, economically speaking, in 30 to 40 to 50 years. What incentive would there be for the government of a country that had that record to change itself? Are you crazy? That's their success. They're not give that up. What? It's crazy. It's a crazy thing to imagine that would happen. And it didn't happen, so they don't know that they made a mistake in their strategy. Americans can't do that. We made a mistake. No, never make a mistake. Like Mr. Trump, in that way he's not naughty. He always doubles down or tells us another story. But that's not unique to him. So the Panama Canal is a way to hit the Chinese, that's all. It says we may close it, we may not let you through. Now, could they do that anyway? Sure. What's the point? So here comes the theater. Holding back China is a complicated game because it's only half real. Because in the last 40 years, the Chinese not only grew, but the American dependency on China also grew for goods and services. Look, what you have to pay an American worker is much less than it would have been if you could not unload cheap Chinese consumer goods on everybody. Your pants, your shirt, your car, your toaster, your shaving equipment, it's all made in China, or was. Still, most of it is. That cheapens the cost of living for working class people, which allows you to pay them less money because they can still go to the mall and pick up at Walmart or Target all of that junk, which comes from China and which is distributed in America by Walmart and Target. The marriage made in heaven. Now, those two companies have to be very careful never to say that, But if you look at it, it's no secret, it's easy to show. Walmart and China walk hand in hand for the last 50 years. They need each other dreadfully. Walmart is against all these tariffs. It doesn't want to have to charge the people who go to Walmart more money because it knows who those people are and it knows what this all means. Now, that's true for Dollar General and dollar stores and all the rest of it. So American strategy is always split. You have to posture, punish, constrict, and constrain, but you have to also deal with the realities of it. And the Chinese know that.